into the market, which means that you work with the designers, you meet the designers. I did shoots, which meant that I worked with photographers, the models, the celebrities. I wrote the captions. I had to write the intros, the decks. I laid out my shoots. So I was sort of a one-man band, and within a very short period, I was really finding that it was a little bit too small, a little bit too cozy, and I thought, well, I should try the United States. And I was very fortunate because my mother was American. It was very easy, and also I was young and foolish. I didn't know anything better. It was very easy for me to move to America. And that was a bit of a culture shock. It was not loving hands at home by any means. I did some work for American Vogue. It was not successful. I eventually managed to get a job at Harper's Bazaar. It was a very short period there. They fired me. They told me I would never understand the American market because I went to France, and Yves Saint Laurent just did an incredible collection that was based on Africa. And the looks were very much long, cream muslin caftans, and I had the audacity to give the model Rasta hair, and that was Rasta lock. That was considered completely unacceptable by Harper's Bazaar, and I was basically fired on that day. I recommend that you all get fired. It's very much a life learning experience. You go back, you reevaluate who you are, what you are, and what you wanted, and I was extremely lucky, because I ended up at New York Magazine, which magazine that I'm sure you all know, and I worked for an incredible editor, Ed Kozner, and he was the first to tell me he didn't know anything about fashion, which was great for me because I was able to fool him most of the time, and within a very short period of time I was overseeing not only the women's and the fashion collections issues, but I was overseeing food, about which I knew really nothing, and also living. And that was just an incredible experience. It was very much like being back in London. It was a very small team. We did everything. And it was a very exciting time to be in New York. In the early 80s, everything was changing radically. It was the beginning of an incredible cultural outburst. And one of the things that really struck me was the proliferation of incredible talent in the art world. And one of the very last issues that I did for New York Magazine was that I asked a number of artists, among them was Clemente, Schnabel, Basquiat, who sadly is no longer with us, David Saleh, to paint the New York collections. And then I photographed the real looks in front of the paintings. And Alexander Lieberman, who was the editorial director of Condé Nast at the time and also an artist, saw this issue, and he called me, and within seconds he had persuaded me to be creative director of American Vogue. So I left New York Magazine after a few really wonderful, wonderful years, and came to Vogue, and that was a little bit of a shock too, because it sounded great, the title, but actually there had never been a creative director there, and I didn't really know what I was meant to do, and I don't think they really knew what they were meant to do with me. But I used the time to really understand how that magazine worked and who the people were, who the cast of characters were. I met all the photographers, the editors, and I just saw how a great magazine runs. But obviously they decided that they were either wasting their time or wasting my time, and I was offered the editorship of British Vogue after about a year. And I went back to London, which had always been a dream of mine. I'd always thought that I should return to London and stay there, but I have to say, having worked in the States, going back to London, as wonderful and thrilling it was to be back home with my family and many of my friends, it just seemed very small time. So that lasted about a year, and they then called me and said, would I like to come back and be editor of House and Garden, which was a venerable publication belonging to Condé Nast, that they'd had the idea that it needed a shake-up. And I was very challenged and excited by this idea, and I went